we're moving on now to my good friend, Stephanie Stern-Protz and Dr. Krista Welz from North Bergen. And you guys were surprised we weren't going to come out there this year. And I'm sorry, but we will come next year. We're committed to come out and be with you if you're still willing to host.
We're hopeful that as we go through this incredibly unique, once in a lifetime, I hope, time period, and we can all gather again. We hope we see you here in North Bergen.
Yeah. And then we'll get all the New Yorkers out there too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to start today with Dr. Welz. We put together kind of our own version of a mixed method, qualitative to quantitative presentation, and I'm going to let Dr. Welz get it started.
Okay.
And
let me make sure that she's muted right now. I need to broaden out my camera so I know she's on.
I'm here.
There you are.
Hi.
I was in the wrong view, so I was only seeing a limited number of cameras. There you are. Well, thanks for joining with us, Dr. Welz. So I'm gonna I'm gonna stop sharing so you guys can share, and then I will go on mute and turn my camera off because it's all about you right now. And then at the end, I'll be watching for questions. And if no one asks anyone, I'm going to have a million of them because I love you guys. And I think you're an amazing district. So, okay, you have at it.
Okay, so what Mrs. Stern and I are going to do today is share with you this heartwarming lesson on SEL and just talk about the warmth that both students and teachers need, especially coming out of a pandemic, which people still don't realize we're still in it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, me and Mr. Stern were talking before of how to do this, how to share with you our lesson. You could take what I'm saying exactly out of the slides, or whatever I'm saying in the slides, you could just make it your own lesson. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the chat. This is our presentation for today. You want me to share it with the panelists and attendees?
Yeah. If you want to share it, you can, but you can also go to your panel here in Zoom and share screen.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna put the link in the chat, and then I'll share my screen and I'll go over this great lesson that you can give. I would say either teachers for professional development or do it with your class, because it's such a beautiful lesson, and students and teachers could both interpret it so many ways. Okay.
Oh, great.
All right. So I just put the link in the chat, and I'm going to share my screen now. Share my sound and everything. There we go. Okay. Everybody see it okay?
Yep, we see it.
All right. Let's get this away. There we go. Okay. So the name of this beautiful story is called The Hidden Story, Leadership and Social Emotional Learning, presented by myself and with the one and only Stephanie Stern-Protz, my best co-teacher in the world. Okay. All right. So now what I do with this lesson, again, is either for teachers or for students. The first thing I talk about is every one of us has a story, but how much of your own story do those around you really know, right? We could all agree every one of us has some type of story, especially a hidden story. And we're going to take a look at a very, very short film. It's about 2 minutes, called The Hidden Story by Franklin Covey. Now, I actually saw this video last October. And while I watched it, it's about 3 minutes, I was glued to the screen, because at first I thought it was just, okay, it's just a plain YouTube video. What could be so great about it? And it really just showed daily interaction with strangers. Big deal, right? We see that in a lot of videos. But as it started playing, you get that beautiful music in the background, and you really begin to see what these people are going through. You realize that these strangers are interacting with others whose worlds were completely different from their own. yet they were surprisingly connected at the same time. So I have the video actually in slide, but I'm actually going to show it on my desktop. It's a little bit clearer. So sit back and just relax. It's about 3 minutes, and I know you're going to love it. Okay, so I know that video must have hit everybody's heart at some point, and I think many of us could relate to many of those people on here.
I'm just telling you right now, Krista suggested that I that I not have my microphone on because I'm always sobbing by the end of this video, and she was absolutely right.
It's really heartwarming, and like I said, it hits us all differently. Now, if this video had not shown what was really occurring in these people's lives, it would have appeared to be everyday people interacting with each other in just a small town, right? If there was no titles in that video, it would have been just smiling. We would have not known anything that was happening with them. Just regular everyday people. A trip to the grocery store, as you saw, a stop at the pharmacy, and just a walk with your granddaughter. If we weren't provided the on-screen text that glimpsed into the hearts of those in the video, you might wonder, why was it worth taking 3 minutes to watch this video? The video enables us to get a glimpse into each person's heart and really view the hidden story within. If we could see into the hearts of others, feel what they feel, understand their struggles, hopes, fears, and joys, how would you treat them? How would your day be different? Would it just be another day? We never realize that when we talk with our students, or even when we talk with a teacher that's just passing our classroom. What's going on with them? What do we not know? And what do we have in common? So I am not ashamed to say that each time I view this video, tears start to well up in my eyes. I had to take my headphones off. I don't know if you noticed it. I couldn't watch. As we deeply reflect on those lives that we know nothing about, and very often we're completely oblivious to our surroundings and the people around us. We were in isolation, right? Last year, we were completely alone. All our troubles, if we got sick with COVID, if our families got sick with it, if our students got sick, we didn't know. We didn't know what was going on. We were completely oblivious. Do you ever wonder what each of their stories are? What is on their minds, and especially in their hearts? On the outside, we all have noticeable differences, but on the inside, we have many similarities. I begin to reflect on the times where I would have a heavy heart and did my best all day to fake it. My heart was hurting, but I knew life was going on all around me. Then there were days I had ecstatic feelings of joy. But we often remember those days where we smile on the outside, yet we are crying on the inside. How many times have we thought, if they only knew, if they only understood what I was really going through? Many people would have understood why I wasn't acting like myself. If they only knew my hidden story, your hidden story, our hidden stories. Most people who pass us by will never know our hidden stories. Yet our hidden stories are what consumes our minds and undeniably consumes our hearts. Do we choose to care about the hidden stories of those people that surround us every day? Teachers, administrators, students? And most importantly, do we have empathy for the hearts we will never get to feel? So my main point of this presentation today with me and Mrs. Stern is, as educators, we have one of the most difficult jobs in the world. However, showing empathy for others while your own heart is hurting is an unbelievably courageous act. So with that, I leave this part of my presentation for you guys. So definitely take the link that I gave you in the chat, download it to your computer, change whatever words you want, but definitely show students, teachers this video, and just see how they reflect on it, and what your own personal opening statement, what it is as it relates to this essential topics.
So I want to talk about what has happened in education itself. And I'm going to pick up a topic that LeiLani and I discussed last year when we were just getting into how we were preparing for online complete virtual learning. You know, most of us really relied on social media. And, you know, in this current climate, social media is a really hot topic. And I mean, hot by it's under fire, and it's something we desperately need to stay in touch with our loved ones. There are many people who are not traveling still, many people who will not get on an airplane, who have limitations when they see elderly. And when we look at social media ourselves, we have to remember that all it is an amplification of real life by concentrating on what is only perceived as real life on a single user screen. And what I mean by that is, I'm not going to post If my cats eat the wrong food and they throw up, that's not something I'm going to post on social media. I'm not going to post the bad picture of me and my daughter where I have a double chin in that shot. We're only posting really the best and brightest of what we are. And other people are going to, they're going to observe that and absorb that as that's my life. It's so wonderful. Why is her life so wonderful? Why is his life? Why is their life so wonderful? And my life is so dreadful? Because we do compare. It's just a reality of life. So again, we might have felt very sad and just not good enough because we constantly compare ourselves to others. And like I just said, social media amplifies that comparison. So on the bright side, it allows us to keep in touch. On the dark side, it's just a comparison. For personally myself, I was out of school and online from March 13th, 2020 until March 19th, 2021. I spent 371 days at home, mostly at home. And that was a year and 5 days. And that really changed the way I look at things, and it changed the way I reacted, and it changed the way for all of us. And if you want to write us back or, have a question in the Q&A about and want to say how long you were offline or out of the classroom, please feel free. Some of our learners, and this is where I'm going to transition now to a little bit of quantifiable data, we have to remember that we're here in school systems, but many of our learners and our parents, they've turned to pods as a way to stay in touch with each other. And teachers have transitioned to learning pods as an alternative to being in class. And we have to find a way to rise above the type of abandonment this causes. And I'm speaking really to the public school in general, or to even private, non-secular schools, et cetera, even if we don't realize it on a conscious level. So according to Erin O'Connor, the director of NYU's Early Childhood Education program, this past year has been a jolt to the American education system. That is an understatement. And what she says is, I think we'll look back on it as a really influential time, for better or for worse. So just like social media keeps us in touch, but makes us compare, gives us a comparison mind, again, the American education system has changed dramatically and actually profoundly, for both better and for worse. And what is continuing to drive pods and private online learning companies is altering our roles. What do we look at now post-COVID? In post-COVID, private pods have taught us that the educator is directly present for learners. Whether they're on the screen or not, they are interacting directly with just one or a few learners at a time. And that's extremely personalized learning. They're providing a safe emotional space. Learners are in their own homes. Learners are at the home of a trusted family friend or a neighbor, but they are immediately in a safe environment. And online learning in private pod companies know that flexibility is key in providing exceptional education without sacrificing educational excellence. So for us, and please understand, I am speaking from a public school point of view. I ask myself, how can my leadership skills as a teacher help steer the students back onto crystal waters? So they're not afraid to come back to school. They're not trepidatious. They're not hesitant. I have to come to school to be as in person and with the presence of mind as possible. And going back to hidden story, I have to fight, or I have to balance my own hidden story to be able to do that every single day now in school versus at home. And I'm sure for other teachers out there, it makes a huge difference. How can our leadership, our administrators, our thought leaders, our decision makers help us, and I'm talking about teachers, stay confident within our own classrooms? They have to make sure that students and teachers have those safe spaces to talk. We have social workers, we have guidance counselors, we have psychologists to help the students. For the teachers, I have to give North Bergen Federation of Teachers a big shout out for creating an EAP, Employee Assistance Program environment for teachers. But what if teachers just want to sit in the teacher's room and vent? We all know sometimes how that turns out, but we all just have to turn off our ears and listen to the stories so that we as teachers know that we're united, we're a group, we have each other's, we support each other, as they say, we have each other's backs. But we need to really live that and not just talk it and then have a disappointment by having someone get, something get back to someone, because that's the reality. That's the reality. And finally, how do leaders, administrative leaders, superintendents, decision makers help steer our entire school, our school community back to safe harbors? By being aware. I think awareness is very key right now as we kind of flip back into a digital and in-person scenario, in that patience and flexibility are what are going to build trust. I think that something we're not talking about right now is trust. Do I trust my school is going to be clean? Do I trust that the parents are going to give us information about their child's health status? Do I trust that me or other teachers aren't going to come in sick when we think it's a cold or some sort of seasonal allergy, but we feel we have to get to work? Can I trust that what I say is not going to be weaponized against me? Do I trust what I put on a digital learning space is not going to be copied and altered and, quote, TikToked and turned into something that it was never in the first place? That's up to the administrators. They have to create and be aware of having a trustful environment. Now, here are some stories and some numbers. So a person in our school district who is younger than I am put in for retirement, and we were all so happy. We were celebrating all the retirements last year. There were quite a few retirements and quite a few openings. And what we later found out is that this teacher is starting this next school year, not, I guess, not going on the cruise, but she has changed and decided she's going to want to teach on a digital platform. We know of many teachers who were very, very much thinking about, should I come back to the classroom? Should I try to retire early? Do I leave teaching altogether? Many, many tweets that we've seen just in the past week or 2 weeks since school started again were, this is too hard. I don't know what to do. So a RAND survey fielded in early January found that nearly 1/4 of teachers indicated a desire to leave their jobs, compared with an average national turnover of 16%. So it jumped from 16 to 25% in a single year due to post-COVID. This next article, Ed Week State of Teachers Stats 2020, we're hoping that it comes out in 2021 because I definitely want to compare those numbers. And what really hit me in this article, I'm going to scroll down. I think it's going to be around here somewhere. Yes. Teacher morale has plummeted. Where's that chart? teachers' fear of getting COVID-19. Teachers are now fighting. I mean, look at the news from yesterday and today. Teachers are now having to face vaccines or tests or home unpaid. That's really huge. What kind of story is that to have to carry after the pandemic? After in April 2020, we were the heroes. We were the heroes. The country loved us. And by fall of 2020, we were pariahs. And that's what it is. And so it's not surprising to see these stats. One teacher said, I felt like I was being experimented on. 1 in 4 teachers are considering quitting. That is probably part of the same study. And that's off of CNBC. And all of these links are on our slideshow. But it's true. So I just want to leave you with this. I just want to leave you with this thought. 70 years ago, I don't know, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm almost positive that Maslow's came out in the mid 50s or maybe in the early 60s. It's old school for a new time. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is really in session now. Because if you look at this pyramid, our physiological and safety needs are questionable, at least in our minds. We're perceived to have them questionable. Our social needs, are we in a safe place to speak? Are we in a safe place to express our concerns? Where are we? So how is it that we can achieve esteem and self-actualization right now? In the meantime, our families, our students, our community need us to be here in order to teach the skills to scaffold for our students' self-actualization, for their future, for their education. And yet we still have all of our stories to carry. So I think what Dr. Welz and I are saying is that SEL, in a global sense for schools, is so important now, whether it's digital or whether it's in person. The new digital age of schooling is now, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's in limbo, but it's definitely not on clear waters. It's choppy. It's choppy. There are so many things coming at us in education. And I'm not saying that pods are the bad guy, because they're not. But how is it that we in the public sector or in the private in-school sector, how are we going to balance what it is that we need as human beings, as teachers, as administrators, as staff, as the people who are in our custodial staff, people who are in the lunchroom? Everybody needs to have a story that they can handle and be here at the same time. So I think what Dr. Welz and I are saying is that as part of this digital age, let's make sure that we remember that we're humans. And that's our presentation for tonight.
Well, that was super fun. And I think very timely. You know, some of the stats that you guys shared, I'm gonna turn my camera back on. They don't shock me because we're seeing data out of our national teacher digital transition survey, which you guys need to make sure you answer, by the way, if you haven't.
I did.
It's online. Yeah.
I did.
Okay.
I already answered the survey. And by the way, I just want to put in a cheap plug for EduJedi because I do love it. I'm just saying that.
Good. A cheap plug.
It's not cheap. It's an expensive plug. Yes,
yeah,
it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. So really, you're pointing out the hidden, most difficult part of leadership right now. And it's the people. You know, machines will do what you tell them to do. They just do that, right? And there's algorithms you could build and, you know, buy more courseware. But the human condition right now is very fraught with worry. You know, it's a difficult situation. When we were in Dallas and Atlanta last week, when the some of the districts in Atlanta that were still in shut down, everybody masked up. They came to Cobb County, which was hosting us. They don't have a mask rule in Cobb. It's voluntary. So the Gwinnett County people that came in, they were like, what? There's no mask policy? And they were like ripping them off, super excited, and, and other people are like, we're still wearing them. And I was always asking everyone, do you want me to be masked? I'm just checking with you. I want you to be comfortable. It's a very weird moment, right?
It is, and it's very fragile. It's
very fragile, and people can lose their minds over some things, depending on what sources of information they have. They could just lose their minds. So it's something that, as a leader, we're hearing from all the superintendents. Basically, it's like that's the only thing they are sucked into every day, is that, and the potential for violence in the conditions that we're in is really high for schools.
Yeah, ask your teachers, how many referrals are they getting? How many suspensions are they giving? What is the temperature of the student condition? Mm-hmm. And you'll probably have a lot more numbers than were there 2 years ago. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm making an assumption. But.
No, we had a superintendent yesterday couldn't make it because they got pulled into a disciplinary thing. It's a moment, right? So we're in tech transition. Normal's not coming back. We're all going in this direction. And high flexibility, high personalization, because, we have a 20% growth rate of opt out to homeschool, and we're not 33%.
I was looking for that.
Yeah, we're
opting out.
Those are the graphics the data that I shared yesterday, 33.something% already gone, not coming back.
And your data last year was 26.7. I remember that number.
Yeah, we've jumped. 3.6% is the average loss of the public traditional public system. So we're in like the perfect storm of everything that could go wrong for leaders, and they're riding a buck and bronco every day. We got to be willing to be the kind of person who's surprised by nothing. Just go to work. 8 surprises are going to throw your way that day. It's pretty hard for people. You can't plan during that. The vendors are all telling us they can't get in anywhere. Well, no wonder you're all under heavy artillery fire. So focusing in on the social emotional issues right now, I think, is wise. Because if you don't handle that, if you don't get people in their mind space, nobody's going to learn anything. It's not going to happen.
I think people are getting sick of hearing the word fluid. That's why we were talking about things being like the ocean. Right now we're in a squall. Because there's so much fluidity, everybody's kind of like floating in their own direction, and we can't do that. We've got to find some dry land that's safe and where everyone can get their legs back. And it's got to be addressed, because if we can't address those basic safety and physiological needs.
Yeah. And that's, if you're human, that's kind of what you want to care about, we got you all the devices out. We did that, but let's just care a little bit for a while. I think we're in a recovery year, maybe for another year and a half. I think we're in that moment. And I've said that and heard that from a lot of executives that get on the line with us all over the nation. There's some places that are totally like, we're not even going to be able to physically go to Portland and Oregon next year. No way. Everywhere else we'll be able to go. But Northwest in this country is a complete lockdown. It's a very interesting moment. Well, thank you guys very much. I want to make sure we open it up for questions. I think we have just maybe a couple minutes. At 2:45, we're going to launch off. And hi, Dr. Tamara Willis. I see you there. It's so exciting to have you.
Hello, glad to be here.
Hi, good to have you.
Yes.
Super excited. You're probably nodding your head in agreement with a lot of stuff we're saying.
Yes. I enjoy what I've heard. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's just have a couple of seconds before, because we're waiting for the other 2 panelists with you, Dr. Willis. Anybody have any questions for Stephanie or Dr. Welz? Just making sure that anybody wants to raise their hand or stick something in chat or say, thanks, you guys. That was awesome. I think what I want to say as the last thing and ask about you guys is, what's the attention of your own leadership? Where are they at?
Well, I have to give them a lot of credit. They are listening. They are trying their best. I think what happens, and if anybody's on, correct me if I'm wrong. There's always a bigger fish. So we just finished getting an assessment done of where the students are at, so we could compare the numbers of where they're at now versus where they were maybe in March 2020.
Achievement wise or social emotional?
Achievement wise.
Okay.
The good thing is that we do have lots of awareness of social emotional, and we are trying our best. I think it's the numbers, it's the vast size of the need that seems to be overwhelming even our very ready faculty and our very ready administration. And so I know that the town and the county have already put together a wellness fair that is coming up this Saturday. They didn't even want a month to go by before people felt like they could come out, get checked up, test things, have people to talk to, and it's going to happen right here at our library in town. Yeah. And that's very good. I think what also is needed is, again, really backing up your teachers. I think our administration is doing a great job, but if the state tells the administration we have to test, we have to test.
Yeah.
Or if the federal government tells the state that we have to meet certain markers, we have to meet certain markers. And I'm not trying to pass the buck. Yeah. I'm really saying that for what is happening with kids coming back to school, and we don't have an online option. It's all it's all in live in school. Strange. And I think they're doing a great job. And speaking of which, perfect timing. My supervisor's here from last year, Dr. Jared Kishishian.
Hi, Jared.
And I have to say, one of the really fun things we also did for the whole district was that we were just granted and had an event with the space station.
Oh, good.
So we got the kids back to school on a very high note. They come back, this is wonderful happening, this is wonderful, this is wonderful. And I think in the future, we really ought to do that every year. Maybe not talk to the space station, but have something really wonderful for the kids to look forward to, so that it eases the stress of having to come in and within 2 weeks, you're sitting for another test. Yeah. You have to sit for another exam. You have to this, that, and the other thing, because there's already so many constraints and criteria.
Yeah, the stress is really high. I can't imagine what it would be like trying to keep masks on 5-year-olds right now. Yeah. So I think, the data that we have is that 49% of students have lost achievement nationwide. So there was a lot of summer programs and trying to play catch up. And at a certain point, everything that you guys just talked about, like, for example, I think it's Oregon just threw out, like, let's just ignore testing for a while because we're not there. Mm-hmm. Like, we're not going to do that to people. So, you can graduate without meeting all your requirements.
Right. And you know what I have to tell you?
Yeah.
There's the other side of that spectrum, though. I just read about a school in Queens that was making up fake periods. And I'm sorry, Queens people, but it was a huge front page story for about 3 or 4 days where there would be a 10th period or an 11th period and the kids didn't even have to show up and they graduated. And yes, I understand that the intent was there, but on the other hand, what kind of excellence in education are we providing that we promised in the first place?
Yeah, and that's very true. But, Los Angeles Unified had 45,000 kids that didn't show up most of the pandemic, online or otherwise. They just didn't show up. Nobody could find them. They try to track them down, call their parents' cell phone. Nobody could find them. At a certain point, you just have to go, what's more important, humans or?
Right. So this is the other side of it.
Score. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, so I totally understand why people are doing what they're doing from a leadership position. It's their choice as an individual school to make that call. They got to do, because, excellence. Yeah. Are the kids going to go crazy and end up suiciding out? I don't think I want that. So
I would not want that either, but I wouldn't want it.
Off. Yeah.
Well, you know what? So there's two sides of that coin.
Yeah.
We do, because this is what we're stressing, social, emotional. Make sure we support everybody physiologically, safety wise, social wise, and then finally, self-actualization. But the other side of that is that, yes, and you have to give them a lot of breath. It's very liquid. Here's the problem. It's that abandonment. And I think we mentioned that earlier in our presentation. Yeah. I don't want kids to feel like they're abandoned if they give up. I don't. And I did teach over the summer. I did teach a catch-up class, and it was extremely effective. And we saw kids who had failed out I taught math, of their subject getting 80s, 90s on their skill sets. And we weren't calling them a test. It's just, let's check your skill sets. Let's check on each other.
That's good.
And just by changing the verbiage, you go from being in school to being cared for. And I think I got to say that is a big plus for our leadership. I think that it's the overwhelming need. And I'm sure that that's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's an overwhelming need that students and kids have. Yeah. Yes, everybody has the right to make their own decision. I absolutely agree. But when we see what the data is coming out of it, of students that felt like nobody cared about them or they were forgotten because of here's a packet, just do this and I'll pass you for the whole class. How much value are you going to have for yourself?
Yeah, but to be honest, and I'm going to end off and go to my panel next.
Okay.
Is I think that's been happening forever. It's been exacerbated. Here's the positive I want to end on with you guys. 51% of kids did achieve. During the pandemic, in the midst of mass chaos, somehow kids were learning anyway.
Yeah.
Yay!
And
right?
that's thanks to great educators.
Yeah, let's take the win and move forward. That's all we can do. We can't go back anyway, right? Nope. So I have my panelists here. Thank you very much, Stephanie. Looking forward to seeing you. And
yes, and remember that invitation is out there for you.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right.
The future of work is changing. Now students are expected to graduate with a foundation in digital literacy and computer science, so they can use technology, create digital artifacts, and design solutions to some of the world's biggest challenges. With Learning.com's award-winning technology curriculum, EasyTech, you and your team of educators ensure that all students are prepared for a career in computer science. Through EasyTech's scaffolded curriculum, you promote digital equity by closing the digital skills gap and giving all students access to authentic learning using technology. The content areas develop students' digital skills like keyboarding and computer fundamentals, build their proficiency in word processing, presentation, spreadsheet, and multimedia tools, and enable them to practice critical thinking and problem solving with computational thinking and design real-world solutions with coding. Across these content areas, students have hands-on and collaborative practice using digital tools and skills that are the foundation to successful technology integration in the classroom. Developed by educators like you, EasyTech has an ISTE seal of alignment and is aligned to national and state-level computer science, digital literacy, and technology standards. Your EasyTech subscription gains you access to its comprehensive curriculum, which features elements like digital lesson plans with an interactive interface that individualize learning based on student performance, hands-on and collaborative projects in which students create original digital artifacts using real software programs, pre- and post-grade level tests designed to measure student growth, and discussion opportunities and other formative check-ins. The program saves teachers time with detailed scope and sequences, pre-built pacing calendars, and digital lesson plans. EasyTech helps your team ensure technology integration in the classroom is student-led, purposeful, and effective with adaptive content and gamified lessons that provide immediate feedback to students. EasyTech is designed for a simple implementation that enables your team to feel comfortable teaching technology even if they don't have prior experience. And with EasyTech's in-depth year-over-year reporting at the individual, classroom, school, and district level, your work is rooted in efficacy.